In this video, we will be taking a look at Allan Lichtman and his 2024 presidential election prediction. Allan Lichtman has correctly predicted 9 out of the 10 past elections using 13 keys that he developed back in the 1900s. Before we get started, please smash that subscribe button for more content like this and also real-time updates on major events leading up to the 2024 election. According to his 13 keys, Allan Lichtman has Harris at a 100% chance of winning. He has even said on public podcasts that there is no way Harris will lose to Trump. So you might be asking yourself, what are these 13 keys? Before we get into the keys, let's take a look at how this whole system works. There are 13 keys which will be answered with true and false. A true key is good for Vice President Harris and a false key is good for President Donald Trump. Whoever holds the majority at the end will win this election. So, now that you know how this whole system works, let's take a look at what these keys actually are. The first key is party mandate. After the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives than the previous midterm elections. This key is false, as even though the Democrats performed better than expected, they still lost seats in the U.S. House. The second key is if there was a primary contest in the party. In this election, there was no primary contest, and the Democratic Party all united under Vice President Kamala Harris as their nominee, so this key is true. The third key is if the incumbent is seeking re-election. In this case, Joe Biden dropped out of the 2024 election, so this key is false. The fourth key is if there is a third-party candidate that polls more than 5% nationally. In this case, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. dropped out, and he was the only major independent candidate who really took any percentage of the national vote. And even though he endorsed President Donald Trump, this key is true. The fifth key is if there was any major depression or recession during the incumbent administration. In this case, the key is true, as even though the economy has not been the best in the past 4 years, there has been no major depression or recession under the Biden administration. The sixth key is the long-term economy. Under the Biden administration, they created more jobs than any other administration in a long time, so this key is true. The seventh key is if there was any major national policy change during the incumbent administration. In this case, rejoining the Paris Accords on climate change, the CHES bill, the infrastructure bill, and the Inflation Reduction bill have all been major national policy changes under the Biden administration. So this key is clearly true. The eighth key is if there was any sustained social unrest under the incumbent administration. There has been some few sporadic protests, but there's been nothing major that has happened under this administration, so this key is true. The ninth key is the scandal key. This key refers to if the incumbent administration has been tainted with any major scandals during their term. And even though the Republicans have been trying for a long time to find scandals related to Joe Biden, they have come up short, and this key is true. So as of now, there have been 2 false keys and 7 true keys, so it's looking pretty good for Kamala Harris. Moving on to our 10th key. The 10th key is the charismatic key. This is a very high threshold key, as the incumbent candidate would have to be someone who is a one-in-a-generation nominee, and Kamala Harris has not met those standards. Therefore, this key is false. The 11th key is the challenger charismatic key. In order for this key to be false, Donald Trump would also have to be a one-in-a-generational candidate, and he has also not met those standards. Therefore, this key is true. And our final 2 keys are our foreign policy keys. These are 2 tricky keys, and they could flip. The first one of these keys is the foreign policy failure key. Under the Biden administration, the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a deep failure viewed under the eyes of the American people. Therefore, this key is false. And our final key, the foreign policy success key. The Biden administration has been deeply involved in the war in Gaza, as well as many other Middle Eastern wars. As of now, we see no near end to these wars, and these wars haven't been necessarily successful. Therefore, our final key is false. And with all 13 of our keys, Kamala Harris is the clear favorite as she stands at 8 keys to Donald Trump's 5. With this in mind, Allan Lichtman, the most accurate predictor of elections, will give the 2024 election to Kamala Harris. If elected, Harris will serve as the first female president in American history. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please smash the subscribe button for more content like this leading up to the election.